Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at audio editing in arrangement view. So we're just going to get straight into this and drag some audio into our arrangement view. As you guys know, this is arrangement view, so let's just get some audio. I'm going to get a drum loop. So we just get a generic drum loop filled with kicks and claps. So there's a few things we can do to edit our audio in arrangement view. We can add fades, which will sound like this. The volume kind of slowly comes in, which is cool. And then we've got our audio effects here. So there's a ton of things here we haven't really looked at. We have beat repeat, so we're just going to go through each one of these. So we can get like a repeating beat, which is really cool. That's beat repeat, so you can get kind of different, kind of experiment with that. It's really cool. And then we've got our delay, where we can tweak the dry wet. So dry is basically like off, wet's on, and the wetter it is, the more signal the delay sends to the drum loop. If you like that sound, you can just hit record and then get your automation. This will record an automation, because you can see there's red dots here, which means the automation is recording. And then if I drag this, they turn grey. That means because I've altered the automation, so I just right click, re-enable automation to get that back to red, and that means the automation is enabled, as you can see. It moves by itself, which is pretty cool. We can change the speeds of the delay. We can change the feedback. Cool. And then there's echo, which is similar to the delay, but kind of a bit different. And then we've got filtered delay, which is quite cool. Grain delay. Pretty interesting. Spectral time. Pretty cool. Then we can go into the driving colour options. We've got amp here, which will beef up the sound. Different presets. Good for bass lines, vocals. Grittying up a drum loop. A few presets here. Cabinet. All change, different types of speakers, which is quite interesting. Different types of speakers. Get some cool sounds with that. Studio room. Drum bus. Where we can add crunch, boom. Good for a kick drum or an 808 if you want to beef it up, just add some boom. You can almost tune the bass frequency from that using the frequency knob. Dynamic tube. Erosion. Get interesting sine waves out of that. overdrive. It's like a distortion unit. You get some cool sounds out of that. So this is like the filter of the sound. So you move over here, you get the highs over here, the lows. Moving around to pedal. Another really cool distortion unit. Cool for like crunchy up drums. Redux. Yeah, kind of bit crush. So yeah, that's Redux. You can add some filters in here, DC shift. Really cool. That's been updated nicely. Saturator, one of my favourites. There's different presets. I like Synoid Fold, so what I'll do is I'll right click here and I'll save it as my default preset because I like the wave that it runs through the bass line and drums. It just beefs things up a bit, makes them a bit warmer. And if you tweak the bass knob, you can get a really cool like acidy sound out of anything. And if you go to Wave Shaper, you can actually make your own custom wave that runs through the saturator, through the sound. Pretty cool. Vinyl distortion. Cool. Dynamics, we've got a compressor, which will compress the sound. Got different types of compression. Expand will make the sound louder. Make up will add volume. Peak is cool. RMS is cool. Glue compressor. Limiter. You can actually control the EQs of the sound, which is quite cool. You've got your high frequency up here, which can kind of make a sound kind of go a bit lo-fi. And then mids, take out the body of the track, which is quite cool. We can boost, and the low end. Awesome. Multiband compressor, dynamics. Then we've got EQs and filters. So we've got auto filter. We can like filter the sound and add an LFO. EQ8 here. EQ3, yeah. Modulators, we've got envelope follower, which we can tweak. LFO, which we can map to certain things. So let's say if we added a reverb in here, skip to the reverb for a sec, and if I wanted to map the LFO to the dry wet, it's gonna modulate the dry wet, so look, you see it's moving by itself. And you can change the percentage of that using these percentages. If I wanted to map it to something else, like the pre-delay, so that's pretty cool. And you can add as many LFOs in as you like, and then modulate as much as you want. It's really cool. Back to this shaper. guess you can, let's get a reverb on there. Let's map this to the dry wet. Guess it kind of follows the shape. Cool. Get a reverb shaper. Dry film safely. Right, pitch and modulation, auto pan. That'll pan to the left and to the right of the track. Really cool, really cool. You can change the rate. You can change it to notes, so it's synced. Chorus ensemble. Cool. Frequency shifter, awesome. Oops, I'll just right click use. You get cool kind of transition effects. So if I wanted to do that for a part of a beat, we just go like this. You get like a build. Phaser flanger, they've combined phaser and flanger. In Ableton 11, I think they've really done this one up quite nicely. Looks cool as anything. Get some interesting effects from this. Super cool. And corpus, this is a really weird one. It adds like a weird sound. It kind of like bleeds through. Get some cool percussive elements with this. So that exists, that's a thing. I recommend going through the presets of that, just having a play around. You'll find it quite interesting. Very interesting. And hybrid reverb is another cool new one. It puts like a sound in the reverb. You can change the convolutions. Just get slightly different sounding reverbs, which is good fun, quite cool. And then we've got resonators, which is a good one, underrated. You can add like different pitches. Good for like synths and bass lines and vocals if you want to get some weird harmonics quickly out of a sound. It's good for building tension. If you automate that dry wet. Reverb, the classic, arguably my most used audio effect, just because of an EQ, just because of how it just adds space to a sound and helps it sound bigger and nicer. Spectral resonator, very cool, again underrated. It's kind of like a bit crush with a flanger. Granular with a modulation rate, very interesting. Vocoder, kind of get like an electro sound. And then utilities, your audio effects rack, so you can put multiple audio effects on here, like let's say an amp and a reverb. Let's get a reverb on there, and if you put them both in the group, well, if it lets me, we can now, if we click this one, we can have certain macros, which I'll show you guys. You can create your own macro variations as well, which is really cool. So like, what's a macro? So we click this little one over here, and then we're going to map this to macro 1. And we're going to map this to macro 1 as well. And now we've got the dry wet of both of them with one knob. So you can see we can control multiple things with one parameter, which is quite cool. And then we can control like the volume as well of this. You can just get cool effects with that. That's the audio effect rack. External audio effects. That is if you've got an external compressor or echo hardware, and you can just plug that in, and then you do audio in, and then you can control the dry wet from here, which is really cool. Spectrum, we get like a frequency analysis of the sound. So you've got like your high frequencies, and it kind of dissipates into mids and lows over mids and highs over here. So low frequencies, and then this is like the boomy part. The bit mids is like the toms. Tops is like vocals and hi-hats. We've got tuner, so you can see what key your loop is in. It's not a huge deal, like it doesn't really matter. But I normally read the first letter that pops up. So I'd say this is in a G key, which is relative to E, and A, which is fine. And F, I think F minor. And then yeah, utility, we've got utility, so we can go stereo sound, we can go mono. So I'll sometimes put this on the master, and if you just click mono, you get to hear a track in a mono sound, so it sounds different to stereo, and then you can mix it down slightly differently because it's coming out of one speaker just directly at you. Very interesting. I've got courses on just that whole mono versus stereo argument and mixing down, so you guys can check that out. It's normally stereo speakers, but if you're in a club, sometimes there's mono speakers in other areas, in like the smoking area, so pretty interesting. And you can also adjust the gain here of the track, and then balance, you can go to the left and to the right. What else can you do in mono? So yeah, you can have just listen to the left speaker, listen to the right. Very cool. You can swap them, which is quite interesting. And then stereo, which is just stereo sound, 2 speakers, and coming at you. And then again, like I said, mono. If mono's enabled, you've got it coming all condensed into one speaker, and so that compresses the sounds into a smaller space. So you'll hear irregularities, and you'll be able to mix it down a bit cleaner. You can do bass mono as well. A lot of people recommend having all your basses in mono, like your kick drum and bass line. I personally like to break that rule to get different sounds. And that people don't really notice if it's in mono or not. But yeah, if you're in a big festival, it's good to test out in mono, your track, and stereo. Just test out as many systems as you can, different headphones, in the car, in the gym, on your decks, you know, mix it and stuff. But yeah. That is audio effects and editing audio and arrangement view, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening. I'll speak to you next one. Peace.